My name is Carl Hinder and you're listening to the Salon Help Good to Go podcast, the podcast for salon and spa owners who are looking to grow. The only thing stopping you is you. Welcome to episode 21. Overwhelm in your business. So being overwhelmed, guys. Now, if you were to listen to the media, definitely on social media, but all types of media, you would be forgiven for thinking that everyone is totally overwhelmed these days. Everyone feels that they've got more to do and less time than ever before. And if you're an achiever, or rather if you're an overachiever, someone who's successful and looking for the next big thing or the next development, then you're going to be even more overwhelmed just by virtue that you're trying to achieve more and more. Now, there aren't many people in our society who aren't overwhelmed. Probably just lazy people, okay? Just lazy people are probably not overwhelmed with. The only overwhelm these guys have is probably which film from the top 500 on Netflix they've got to choose and what type of crisp do they have to choose while standing in the crisp aisle at the supermarket. And that's largely because they don't care. So overwhelm, and this is kind of a compliment if you like, overwhelm only really affects people who want to get things done. People like you and I, of course. Now, I don't want you to stop caring about your business. I don't want you to stop caring about your life. But you might want to stop caring about absolutely everything. And this is the important part. And focus on what really matters. Now, of course, I'm a business coach and I'm talking about business here. But you could obviously, analyze this and say, well, look, the thing that really matters, Carl, is my family, or the thing that really matters is my health or my sport or whatever it is. But whatever it is that it's important to you, you've got to focus on it. Now, if I were your coach, and I know in some small way I am because you're listening to me and hopefully I'm in a fortunate position that I'm going to be able to influence you just a little bit. I'm going to be telling you that if you're overwhelmed, the thing to focus on will be things like your time management. It's going to be things like your time management, your time blocking, and things like your high and medium and low priorities, and of course, delegation. Delegation in the workplace in particular. This time management, time blocking, all that sort of stuff, it is really important stuff. So if you're running a business without really mastering it, then I can only encourage you to do so and change things. Now, when I started my membership, it's called Massive Not Passive, by the way, the Massive Not Passive membership group, this was the number one thing that I did for the group. And it's still the most important session that I've ever done. I send everyone there, even after a couple of years, and say, go to that session if you're having trouble with trying to find time to do everything in your business. If you need help with your time management, you can join the membership group when it opens in a few weeks' time. But meanwhile, you can just drop me a line at info@salon-help.co.uk. Anyway, meanwhile, back on the podcast where we're really trying to delve into this overwhelm situation. I want to focus on a couple of other areas with you, which really matters when it comes to you feeling overwhelmed. So I want you to ask yourself this question. Do you focus on things that you are in control of? Or do you focus on things that you're not in control of? Now, before you actually write that answer down or before you shout it out, ask yourself another question. Do you find yourself complaining about other things like the cost of living as an example, or the fuel crisis, or fuel bills, or the interest rates, or anything like that? Maybe the government making those kinds of comments. Because if you are, you're using essentially a negative, mental energy. Because you can't change or correct any of them. You're just exerting an energy which kind of goes into this negative melting pot and ends up in your overwhelm basket, if you like, in your kind of area of overwhelm. So first of all, try and focus on the things that you can have an impact on, that you can change, that you can develop. If you stay in the negative zone, it'd be like me, guys. If you've met me, you'll know what I'm talking about. It'd be like me saying, look, I'm going to spend my life worrying that I'm short. The reality is, no matter how much energy I put into that being a problem, if it's a problem in fact, it isn't going to change anything. I'm still going to end up being short. So you've got to start thinking about all these things that I'm worrying about, all these things that I'm negatively commenting on. When I'm negative, it goes into my overwhelm kind of basket, and I can't do anything about it, so it's really, really lost energy. The obvious answer here is to focus on the things that you can change, right? Now, that might not be as easy as it sounds. There's a lot of work just working on the things you can control, but at this point, everything comes down to you and your actions. Now, I know most people won't like that. Most people don't want to be responsible for their own actions, and they don't want to hold themselves accountable. It's much easier, isn't it, if you can blame someone else, if you can blame the government, or you can blame, I don't know, interest rates, or the Ukraine, or something like that, Brexit or something. Most people want to find a scapegoat. It's how we're kind of wired, if you like, and it's kind of what most people are satisfied with, but it doesn't change the situation. So you've got to start to reduce your overwhelm, and you do that by focusing on things that you can definitely change. So when you think about this, look, the real winning strategy here is to look at who is sharing your experience, who's sharing your journey. Now, I don't mean let's go and find lots of people who are negative about everything. Let's find some other people who are positive that they could find the answer, or people who have found the answer and they're happy to share that with you. Once you understand what you got to do, your overwhelm is going to start to drop down. Now, there's a kind of a caveat. There's a little bit of a warning, because having had my own salons, I had a chain of salons, I've had my training company and my coaching organization, as well as other things, I can tell you that most overwhelm comes from working alone. It definitely was for me, and it seems to be the same with most of my clients. When you're working alone, it's very, very difficult, or more kind of specifically when you're having to make business decisions and take actions alone. Now, when I say alone, that doesn't mean you haven't got staff. And it really doesn't matter how many staff you got, you're always going to be alone in the business sense. If you've got 100 staff, you're still going to be alone, because they don't see the priorities in the same way as you see them. They have different priorities. They have different values and business values. So working alone, I think, is where the key area of overwhelm comes from, and you can definitely overcome that part. It's not that your team aren't a great asset or that you shouldn't be working with them, but think about it like this. You can't go to them, can you, and say, listen guys, I'm really overwhelmed with everything that's going on in my business. Now, first of all, some of them might actually think, well, the boss, the owner, the entrepreneur, the person steering this ship has kind of lost the plot. You're supposed to be a leader. You're supposed to be setting an example. You're running a business. And if you behave like that, they might think that, maybe they'll even think that they've got a job security issue, because you're overwhelmed with so many things, the business isn't as strong as it should be. Now, of course, none of that is true. You're not weak. You haven't lost the plot. All you are is overwhelmed. And the good thing about being overwhelmed is that you can change it. I've given you loads and loads of mini examples already, haven't I? I've talked to you about time management. I talked to you about prioritizing. I talked to you about not being alone, about being with positive people. All these things will overcome the overwhelm issue. Now, it's not just you that's got this emotion, but imagine if you were to share it. Imagine you were to tell the other people that really understand, that are not judgmental. And I'm talking about senior people now, senior people, professional people in our industry. Maybe in a small group, that you're able to tell each other why you're overwhelmed. But more than that, because I don't want you just to have a counseling session, I want you to have a solutions session. Imagine you could create that. Now, this small group, what if it was also chaired by someone who could give you the direction, if you like, or move you away from the overwhelm? You could do that. And you could meet up with a group of people every single week. Someone could chair it. And you can set that up for yourself, by the way. Maybe you can find a group of people who are like you with the same sort of ambition who can help you work through the overwhelm. But of course, you've got to get that chairperson as well. And then instead of dozens of actions, you would be working on one, maybe two most actions every week. I can't even imagine how that must feel for some people. At one moment, you're thinking about there's dozens of things you've got to do this week, and then all of a sudden, because of the right kind of environment, you've only got to do one or two things. What I'm talking about is an accountability group, by the way. That's the professional terminology for it. And like I said, you can set it up on your own, or if you're struggling with that, you can come over to the Salon Help Accountability Group. So you can just reach out to me, info@salon-help.co.uk, and I'll send you an invite for the accountability group. The only difference really about working with me and my guys in the Salon Help Accountability Group is you've got to be ready to give me permission to hold you accountable. Now, I'm not going to really be your boss, by the way. It's just a matter of ensuring that you do things in the right time frame, if you like. Of course, if you're going to go into an accountability group, you still got to master the time management situation. Look, that's probably another discussion for another podcast. But the focus today is to really talk about how do we reduce this overwhelm and really start enjoying your business and, of course, start to enjoy life a little bit more as well. And that's all for this week. Thank you for joining me on the Salon Help Good to Go podcast. Now, please take a look in the show notes where you'll find lots of useful links, and please tell other salon owners and spa owners that we are here every Sunday at 4 p.m. And that's all for this week. Thank you for joining me on the Salon Help Good to Go podcast. Now, please tell other salon owners that we are here every Sunday evening at 4 p.m. trying to get people to progress in their business. Take a look in the show notes. You'll find information about the accountability group and other useful links to help you and your business. I'll see you again on the next episode.